Okay. Okay, guys, so we're ready. So let me share my screen and we can get started. Uh, okay. Okay, do you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, good guys. So hello everyone, thank you for joining our WAS webinar from this format. We're gonna have a brand new from next month, which would be even better, bigger, and with more value. But of course, this one it's a very important webinar because we're gonna talk about the borderless growth. And why we're talking about that? Because the biggest markets right now are US and Europe, and we're talking about 1 billion plus customers that you need to tap into. But of course, no, entering any market, you need to know a few things. You need to know the blockers and how to overcome them. And that's why we have our guest today, which are going to talk about inventory, taxes, growth, and entering those markets. And our guests today are Fabricio Miranda, founder and CEO of Flieber. He's going to talk about the inventory part, which is something which you need globally, any market, anywhere. Then Yaman Alpata, who is the founder of Mega Merchant, he's going to talk about omni-channel expansion across Europe. After that, we're going to move to the biggest e-commerce market in the world. Everybody knows who is this market. That's the USA. Matt Remuzzi, who is the owner of CapForge, he's going to talk about the tax compliance in the USA. And after that, Mike is going to talk about who is the CEO of AMZ Advisory in GoAvance. He's going to talk about the market growth in the USA on Amazon. And then I'm your host today, Nick Penev. I'm the partial manager at hellotax, and I do few more things. So I'm also the co-founder of XTREME Power Brands and Scayul. XTREME Power Brands is a partnership agency and network where we've advised over 40 companies in the e-commerce space about partnership. I've been a webinar host since 2020. I've hosted over 300 webinars, and the idea of those webinars is to give you value so you can make the right decisions when you're expanding globally or optimizing your business. And the last but not the least, I've been fully remote since 2010, long before it was cool. And now let's go and dive into the agenda and our topics. First, I'm gonna introduce what we're doing here at hellotax, which is called Expansion to Europe Blueprint, and how we can start selling in Europe easily. It will be a very brief introduction about what we do. Then Fabricio is going to talk about navigating inventory complexity when expanding to the US and Europe. And inventory complexities are something that everybody needs to go for, because if you haven't sold online, you have no idea what we're talking about. But that he's going to talk more about this topic. So after that, Yaman is going to talk about how to accelerate your business in Europe and the UK with no hassle. After that, Matt is going to talk about how to save money on taxes doing business in the USA, whether you're from USA or not. And so that's a very good topic, saving money on taxes, because a lot of people are paying more in Europe as well. And the last, Mike is going to talk how you can actually move a company from Europe to America. And they're going to show a blueprint for US business expansion. And then we're going to have a Q&A session. So any questions that you might have, feel free to type those in the chat. If you have to leave earlier, don't worry. We're recording the webinar. We're streaming live on YouTube, so you can see your question answered after it. We have a list of 20 questions for people who cannot attend. So go ahead and ask questions. We don't charge for questions, so you can ask as many as you want. And here, I mentioned earlier that, expansion to Europe is one of our things that we're doing, and why we're even bothering in Europe. If you're based in the USA, you're gonna say, okay, man, the USA is a big market. Yes, that's correct. But Europe is even bigger, There is 450 million new customers here, and those are people over 18. Only 2% of Amazon US sellers are also selling on Amazon Pan-EU. So can you imagine that 98% of your competitors are not here yet? Europe has 200 million active Amazon users per month. 250 of those are not users rate. So the potential is huge. If you're selling just in your home market, even if it's the state, you're just like a local brand in a way. So expanding to Europe, to a new continent, selling to 50 new countries, you're turning into a global brand. And if you look around you, like Coca-Cola, Nike, all those guys, they're global. You cannot be just in the States, even if it's the biggest market, or in China. You need to go global. In European, it's probably the best market because it has the highest average order value. People like quality stuff here, they're willing to pay more. We've seen that in a lot of reports that the top sellers are not the cheapest. They're sometimes even twice more expensive than other products. And of course, if you do it before your competitors, you're gonna actually take them over. So just take a look at what we're doing. And of course, but before you go here, you're gonna say, okay, Nick, it sounds very easy. Why people are not doing that? Because people are afraid of the blockers. And there is the few things that you need to consider when you're expanding to Europe. The first and the most important is having the right product. If you have no product, you have nothing to sell, you have no point of expanding anywhere. So that's important. If you have the right product, then we can show you if there is an opportunity for you. After that, we're gonna help you to deal with the VAT, which is like the sales tax in the States, product compliance, fiscal representation, customs logistics. We cover all that for our partnerships network. And then at the last thing that you need to do is the culture and language barrier, because if people don't understand what you're selling, they're not gonna buy, they're gonna buy from your competitor. So these are the blockers that are stopping people from expanding to Europe, and those were the things that we're helping out with, because we've built something which I call the expansion to the EU blueprint. And how does it work? First, you send us your Amazon store, your website store, your just product idea or just keywords, and our partners are gonna do a product. We call it marketing opportunity report. We're gonna show you the money. If there is money to be made, the rest is much easier. Then we're gonna help out with the VAT, product compliance, logistics, localization, and of course, if you want to have partners like Mike, Yaman, and others who can actually help you with the brand management and the growth on those markets on Amazon and other channels. And here is a simple report that we've done for a company just to show them how much is the opportunity for them. See, earplugs. The guys are selling earplugs in the States. So see, we can see the C keyword, we can see the search volume, we can see the bar demand, we can see the competition opportunity, we can see investment spots. In other words, we can show you how much you can make, and of course, you can see the additional keywords for this product. And then the other important thing that we show you guys, okay, who is your competitor now? How much are they making? How many reviews do they have? And see what I just mentioned earlier. The guy at the first spot, he's actually 4 times more expensive than this guy and 2 times more expensive than this guy. And they have ton of reviews. So quality is what matters in Europe. So if you have a quality product, you should definitely get one of those reports. They're free. And we're gonna show you if there is a opportunity for you guys. And besides that, I mean, we're giving some like badass giveaways from all those partners, like Margin Business, who is the localization partner, Scudrop, who is the logistic partner, Complizon is a product compliance partner, hellotax, of course, is the VAT partner, and Wapi is the logistics partner. So those guys are gonna give you up to 3,000 discounts per brand, because besides helping with the know-how, we're gonna help you with in regards to discounts, so it could be easier financially for you guys to expand. So like I said, you can send your Amazon store. We're gonna send the follow-up with the webinar, so you can do that tomorrow. But if you're eager to get the report, just message that in the chat, and we're gonna have our team to do it later on. So enough chatting with me, guys. Let's see if I did it in like 10 minutes. Okay, man, I have even 1 minute to go. So I can say, now guys, we're gonna talk about something which everybody hates. They don't hate that as much as taxes, but everybody who is doing e-commerce, they hate logistics. I still even hate that, even though I stopped selling like 4 years ago. I used to have an e-com business selling across Europe for 10 years, and we always had issues with logistics. So what Fabricio is going to talk about is navigate those complexities and what exactly they're doing to actually make it easier for you guys. So Fabricio, thank you for joining today. We've never had a partner like you, so I'm really interested to see what you're going to share. So please introduce yourself briefly, and you can talk more about your presentation.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Thanks a lot for the invite to be here. Thanks to the other speakers, and thanks for everybody who connected. My name is Fabricio Miranda. I'm the founder and CEO of Flieber. Flieber, I'm going to talk about inventory in 10 minutes. It's almost impossible. I agree 100% with Nick. You will see that I have a slide saying that inventory is a necessary evil. So basically, Flieber is an inventory planning platform. We're multi-channel. Our customers sell between $1 million and $150 million. So we have a broad range. They're usually Amazon or Shopify native, but they sell in multi-platforms. We have customers selling wholesale also. So our platform consolidates all of that and tries to make this necessary evil less of an issue. So we're trying to simplify inventory decisions and help you make those decisions in less time than you would. Our customers say things like these: game changer, powerful and customizable, easy to plan stock, simplifies decision making, saves significant time, and true trusted partner. If you want to go to g2.com and search for Flieber, you're going to see more reviews from customers. Anyways, talking about complexities when expanding to the US and EU in 10 minutes. What a challenge. I'm going to try to be brief here. I'm going to be a little superficial. I will send the presentation to everybody later. It has more content on the presentation. And I will also offer 30 slots for a one-on-one if anyone wants to connect with me directly to talk about inventory challenges. I will post the link in the end of this presentation. Anyways, inventory is a necessary evil. So that's the first concept that I wanted to align with everybody. In other words, it's the most important asset of your company, and it's where you can lose all your money, and you can lose all your company overall. You know, I usually say that companies that die, they usually die rich in inventory and poor in cash. So that shows how dangerous inventory is. So the dream would be not to have inventory. The dream would be for you to have a sale to a customer, and then that sale goes to the supplier. Supplier produces the product, sends to the customer, and the customer gets in 2 hours. Impossible today, maybe impossible forever. We never know. We have the reality, which are MOQs, production lead times, container costs, shipment lead times, trucking costs, imperfect forecasts, and a bunch of others. So this is more close to the reality, buffers of inefficiency. This is a real supply chain of a real customer of ours. You see here that all of these little boxes in this red space are inventory nodes, and I call them buffers of inefficiency. They just exist because you were not able to do what I said now, to do a straight process. So you had to create a buffer here, and then you're not able to still do it. You have to create another buffer. So always see inventory locations as buffer of inefficiencies. To have efficient inventory, you have 3 basic rules. The first of them is that you want to make replenishment decisions as late as possible. The latest, the more accurate. So basically, for deciding something that you're going to sell tomorrow, you're going to be very accurate. If you're deciding today something that you're going to sell 180 days from today, you're not going to be very accurate. So try to build a structure, and I'll show a little bit more about that, where you're pushing your final decision towards closer to the date that you're going to actually sell those items. Second rule, order as few products as possible. Everybody's afraid of stockouts. You should be, but you should be even more afraid of overstocks, because that's how companies die. That's where you trap your capital, and you don't have capital. You become stranded in that situation. So avoid capital risk. So ideally, order as few products as possible, more often as possible. And I know there's constraints, you can do that, but that would be the ideal world. Third rule, keep inventory as centralized as possible. So if you have nodes of inventory all over, you might be stocked out of a product here and overstocked of the same product here. If those 2 stocks were combined, you wouldn't have this problem. So having centralized inventory is the most efficient. Once more, this is theory. In practice, it's hard to do all of that to the extreme, but these should be rules that you should follow all the time that you can. Next, always calculate the cost. If you need to create an inventory node, always calculate the inbound shipment costs, storage costs, capital requirements, stock out, overstock risk, fulfillment costs. And you will see that many times it's going to be cheaper for you to be less efficient than to create a new inventory node. And I'll show an example 2 slides from now. Anyways, this is just to set the stage. Now let's talk about how to actually operate based on what we see our customers doing in the past 5 years. We have over 700 stores connected. So this is the base model that I'm going to start with, pre-expansion. So let's assume you are in the US, you have Amazon US, Shopify US, and Wholesale US. And let's assume that Amazon US is fulfilled by FBA. FBA is fulfilled by 3PL, so 3PL transfers units to FBA. And 3PL also fulfills the orders from Shopify and Wholesale. So you have a purchase lead time to the 3PL, we have a transfer lead time to the FBA, and you have a multi-channel forecast here, which is already a little complex. Now, phase one of the expansion is measure intent. So basically what you want to do now is to test that market to see if the market makes sense. So in the case of Amazon, it's really hard to measure intent without having an FBA presence because FBA makes a huge difference in the way you'll sell. So we see our customers opening the FBA presence from the beginning and sending products from the supplier straight to FBA for the beginning. They send SPD. They're not going to make a lot of money. They're probably going to lose money, actually, but they're testing the market. For Shopify, we see customers opening a Shopify store and fulfilling internationally. So that is also counterintuitive because everybody's going to say, oh, it's too expensive and it's going to take too long. People are not going to buy. Yes, you're right, but you're measuring intent. So if you're able to capture that intent of the people who are going to the cart, wanting to buy the product and seeing the cost and the time and giving up, that's already good. You're measuring intent. That's all you need. Once you measure intent, set infrastructure. So basically what you want to do here is to start investing a little more to be a little more efficient than you were before. So in this case, when you open a 3PL in Europe, you can also expand to FBA UK. We have customers that also have a 3PL in the UK, a dedicated one, but we have customers that keep one centralized 3PL in Europe. And you're able to push the Shopify fulfillment to this 3PL. So now you don't have the constraint anymore of having a long lead time and the cost to send products internationally. So this is a intermediate infrastructure. So the complexities, you have a portfolio in a new region. You have now 2 FBAs feeding from the same 3PL in this case. You have international shipment from the 3PL to FBA UK because you have a tax implication, but you are already more established than you were before. As for tips, try to unify the portfolio for the whole European continent. This is another important step. Nick said that, and I had that in my previous slide, which is define a portfolio based on local culture and habits. A lot of times we see our customers with a bestseller in the US going to Europe with that same bestseller, thinking that they're going to sell like crazy, and they sell 0. And it's because of different culture, different types of products that people buy. Nick said Europe is a lot more focused on quality. So anyways, think about the portfolio. And this is the most important step that I'm seeing happening a lot lately, which is push the inventory to China. Nick mentioned Scayul Drop. Scayul Drop is one of the companies that do that. And why doing this is very clever, because now every time you're replenishing for all your locations combined. So you put one PO to your supplier for all the demand that you have, and you only have to make the decision of where to send this demand at the end of the production. So one of the rules I said there before is try to make the decision closer to the date that you're going to sell those products. This is what this is enabling. This is also enabling a second thing that is very important, which is if you had the 3PL in each location with the buffer of inventory, and you needed inventory suddenly in the EU because of some problem, and you don't have in the 3PL EU, bringing it from the US would be really hard. But if this inventory is in China, you can't just send anywhere at any time. So this is a trend that we're seeing more and more brands following. And I think this is a very clever way to operate in today's retail. And you can also expand to multiple countries using the same central 3PL infrastructure. And I think I could make in 10 minutes, Nick. I could. Good. Okay. So I sped up as much as possible. Anyway,
okay. No.
Anyway, just schedule your one-on-one inventory deep dive. I'm going to paste this link. Do we have a chat here, Nick, where I can paste the link?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, we have a chat in the Q&A session.
Chat, and I'll also paste the link to a demo. If you want to see a demo of Flieber anytime, just go to flieber.com/demo. And you want to talk to me directly, fm@flieber.com. So as we say here, start flipping, and thanks a lot, everybody, for being here.
Yeah, start flipping. I like that. So everybody, we're gonna share Fabricio's contact. So I strongly recommend to have a chat with him. He has two other companies which are huge in the e-commerce space, so he knows exactly what he's doing, and that's why he built Flieber, because no matter what you do, you always start with inventory, and then we're gonna talk about something taxes. But first, I'm gonna have Yaman Alpata is the next guest. He's gonna talk about Europe and omnichannel expansion, because that's what they do. I only mentioned Amazon because Amazon is our specialty, but here is the facts for you guys, just to know why Amazon is still in Europe. Amazon has only 20% market share in Europe. Guess what? 80% are not shopping on Amazon yet. So thank you for joining, Yaman. Tell us more about you and share, what we're gonna share with our audience today. So thank you again for joining.
Thank you very much for inviting, and I'm very happy and proud to be here with all the other guests and the audience. So I'm going to talk about today effortlessly expanding into Europe and how we provide a solution for that, and what's the advantages, challenges. So let me share my screen first. Hopefully you see that. Okay. So a mega merchant is, just like briefly talk about myself. I have like 10 years of experience in e-commerce, apart from the 20 years of corporate life. Afterwards, I'm a junior entrepreneur, I can say. And my last job was actually in China. I worked for all platforms for 10 years. First in Turkey, in Trendyol, and then Hepsiburada, two major e-commerce platforms. In 2019, I moved to China. I started working for Alibaba in Hangzhou, and then I worked for in different regions. I was mainly responsible for AliExpress global expansion in various countries. And then in 2002, I came back to Turkey, and then I launched Mega Merchant, which is kind of an inspirational business model from the Chinese TPs. They call it like Tmall partner, Taobao partner, trade partner, whatever, all similar. So basically, which helps brands to sell in a market where they are not available before. So that was the main idea, helping brands to sell on the global marketplaces. So we built basically Mega Merchant, and now we have like a team of 50 people. We have integration in-house. We have fulfillment partners. We manage all the operations and customer service internally, listing, content, advertising, and also reporting, data analysis. They all been managed internally, which is like we are doing the heavy lifting for the brands with our team. So what's the what's the opportunity? Of course, we're talking about the opportunity in Europe and UK. As you have perfectly mentioned, US is the biggest market, is the bigger brother. But Europe is, when you consider it's like one country, the whole European Union, and also add UK on top of it, I think it makes as big as US. And I see like there a very major advantage, which is Europe is a more protected market than Europe in terms of customs, taxes, regulations. So basically that also, and it's more fragmented market compared to US. In US, Amazon has like I don't know, like 40% market share. And then Walmart second, maybe less than 10%. So two players make more than 50% of the total market, which is not the case in Europe. So, and we still have like a 500 million people living there, and also they are rich and richer compared to the other countries. And it's a different. It's also different the customer profile. So it's getting older, wiser, and also richer. So that's why they have more money to spend compared to the other parts of the world. And there's also like one, I think, major thing. All these regulations, they keep the Chinese generally away. So when you look at the Chinese brands, they're mostly interested in US and because it's like big and easy to enter. However, in Europe, there are lots of regulations. You have to establish company. That keeps generally and also the platforms has more KYC processes, more regulations to enter, and also listing products are a little bit more difficult. Language is a barrier. So generally, like Chinese sellers are not that interested in the European market, which makes it less competitive and more profitable, obviously, for the brands. So one important challenge is also like, yes, Amazon is still number one in most of the markets, like Germany or like Spain or Italy or UK. However, not in all categories. Let's say take fashion, for instance. Okay, we have in Germany we have Zalando, we have About You. We have Trendyol, which has entered the CE market and Europe and growing super fast. And also we have in home category, we have Otto. In more collectibles or auto spare parts, we have eBay. So Amazon is still important, but it's not dominating. Also in Poland, we have Allegro, like beating Amazon to death. Also, like in France, we have Cdiscount, or we have La Redoute, which is in most of the categories or in a lot of categories is bigger than Amazon. In Romania, it seems a small market, but eMAG is way bigger than any other marketplace. So we have also the verticals like B&Q or XXX Lutz is the biggest one in furniture category. Debenhams in fashion in UK. So it's just like some of them are here. So we have lots of vertical platforms, and also European customers are loyal with those. So Otto is like, for instance, in Germany, is a very old platform, Kaufland, and they have very loyal based customers, and they are not shopping from other platforms. They are used to that, and they are loving their experience. And Amazon sometimes gets too complicated for European customers. So and also like we have, for instance, TikTok, which is quite interesting for the cosmetics category and fashion categories. They started in the UK and getting a significant market share, now expanding to Europe according to the latest news. So all of these platforms, they are making some sense apart. But that's a challenge on the other side. So because listing products here, like language challenge, integration, how do you do the pricing? They all have different margins and commissions. They all have different logistics capabilities. Some of them don't have FBA at all. So you need to solve all of this and then start making some money. So we are basically dedicated to solve these questions. However, we also have seen that my experience also from Alibaba showed me that a lot of brands that want to enter to Europe, especially non-Chinese, they also have difficulties, and only 3% of them can succeed, which means like they can get at least like one order on a monthly and a recurring basis. That statistic is mainly from the Turkish sellers, German sellers, from the Spanish and French sellers. Let's take like 100 sellers who wants to intend on opening a store in these marketplaces. Like half of them even like they stuck in the listing of the products because of language, because of integration, various things. And many of them, they cannot handle the pricing or campaign management or logistics, etc. So only 3% of those really can do some sales apart or outside of their home country. So the localization is important. The product fitting is important. The logistics is very important here. So brands or D2C brands especially, they have not enough people, or they don't have enough resources to tackle all of these issues at one time. So they generally postpone and leave the opportunity aside. So how we solve all of these things? So in all of the platforms that I've shown you, we have seller accounts. So we have companies in Europe, all around Europe, and also in UK. So we are fully compliant with all of the platform regulations. So we opened our sales accounts in all of these platforms. and we get brand authorization from the brands that we are working with, and they can use our sales account as they like. So we act there as seller or importer of record. So we can do import into Europe from China, from Turkey, from US, from UK, whatever. And also we can sell and we can be the seller of record. So that's number one. Number two is we have an agency inside. So we handle everything internally, like listing products, keyword optimizations, content, and all of the stuff which is required for different platforms. And also we need to be aware of that. All of these platforms have different listing requirements. So the title requirements is different for Auto, different for Kaufland, different for About You, different for Amazon. So also like fulfillment solutions, Amazon has still FBA in Germany as well, but Auto doesn't have one. About You has like fulfilled by About You, but it's better to use also other solutions. Zalando, similar, they also have fulfillment solution, but some others don't. So that's why basically you need a European Union warehouse in order to be able to enable all of these things. And also the VAT implications are different. Although it's like a one European Union, each and every country has different VAT implications, which is quite difficult and understand. So also like hellotax is a great partner here to work with. And also, apart from that, you need to synchronize your orders, you need to synchronize your inventory, you need to synchronize your pricing. So that's why you need a technical partner if you have, various marketplaces, and also if you handle like a long tail products or like a number of orders, which is maybe more than 10, 15 a day. So that's why we also act as a technical partner. We are a partner to the Amazon, and also like all of the platforms like Auto, eBay, Kaufland, etc. So we have direct integration and full service partners. Our technical team can handle all of the integrations. So we still act with the brand. We still work with the brand. They do the production. They do basically everything related to the brand. And then we do the rest: integration, handling, storage, exports, customs clearance, fulfillment, return management, brand protection, advertising management. And also if there is like something like government incentives, we also care about that. And also, of course, like customer service. Basically our sales account is also a quite strong one. We care a lot about the strong account management. So basically you don't need to deal with that strong account management at all. So that's basically the solution that we have. And what is this solution bringing to the brands? I think number one is the time to market. Normally, if you want to expand to Europe, you need to spend at least like 3 to 6 months and Europe is kind of bureaucratic in many senses, and then it takes time to get results. With our solution, you can just like super fast go to the market. In some cases, if everything is ready, we do sales launch in 2 to 3 weeks only for the brands that we are working with. Secondly, optimize OPEX and minimal CapEx, which is like as we have the volume, we can negotiate with the logistics service providers on behalf of you and get the best prices in terms of like logistics. And also you don't need to establish a company or deal with the accounting, etc. So basically your initial costs and hidden costs will be minimized in terms of opening up to the market. And also thirdly, I think in today's world, one of the most important challenges of, especially for the D2C brands and SMEs, they cannot foresee how much sales they can drive in return of the investment they make. So basically, we can give them a foreseeable and predictable roadmap for the marketplace openings, and also that grows, then the sales grows with that. Currently, we have around like more than 150 brands, which is already started selling, and some of them are. And we are quite category agnostic on that sense as well. We do like fashion, we do even furniture, big and larger products, also home textile, home products, FMCG products. Cosmetics is like a very important and growing category in the Europe. And also we select products according to the European customer needs. So we also, we are also like living in Europe, so that's why we understand the European customers and what they expect. So as it's been perfectly mentioned before, it's not possible to start selling the same product right away that is like a top seller in US in Europe. So there might be differences. So we look into that and advise on how to adjust the product or how to change the product for the European market. Some of the examples, like we have men's fashion, we have women's fashion. This is upscale, affordable luxury. We have kids brands. We have home textile, and also like here, like one important example, like for instance, bathrobes. It's quite interesting that in each and every country, almost the people change, people's preferences for bathrobes is changing. So it's not the same bathrobe that a German likes or a customer from UK likes as it's in US. So we have experienced all of these products. So we have also quite experience on how to select and how to adjust the products as well. Also, even like toilet products like toilet paper. For instance, this is an important. This is important. Normally, in US you have to use FBA, but in Europe FBA is expensive. So the logistics is quite different than US. The volumetric weight is not there, so you can only ship by actual weight, which makes things different in terms of profit calculation compared to the US. So we take generally in Europe actual weight instead of volumetric weight, so that we can, for instance, sell paper-based products like toilet paper. Even that can be competitive in the European market. Also, like for instance, cosmetics is like a very interesting big trend in US. Sorry, in Europe, especially vegan products, and sustainability is something that the European customers are looking into very much. So yeah, that was quite my presentation. I stayed in 10 minutes. So you can send me an email, you can text me, WhatsApp, or there's also like my Calendly invite, so you can schedule a call. I can explain further how we can work together.
Okay, thanks, Yaman. You went overtime, So, but all good. Okay,
right,
guys. So now we're done with Europe. I'm sure you guys got some information that you didn't know that it was true. Amazon is not killing it in Europe yet. One thing Yaman didn't mention, the cities count is not longer number one in France. No, they used to be, but they're not longer. So Amazon is slowly accelerating in those markets, and probably Poland is one of the examples where for some reason they cannot do anything. There is like 40 million Polish people, this is the population, only 2 million of those are shopping on Amazon. But of course, that's the opportunity for you. If it's easy, everybody would be doing it, like the Chinese guys. They're not. So that's an opportunity. But right now, we're going to go to the biggest market now. And then our next guest, Matt Remuzzi, he's going to talk about sales tax, because taxes and especially if there is a way for you guys to save money on taxes, that's great. I mean, everybody hates taxes. So Matt, please introduce yourself and tell us more about you and share your presentation.
Yeah, no, it's great to be talking about the topic that everybody hates the most. That's always that's always fun. And like Fabricio said, there's no chance I can get through taxation in 10 minutes. I barely scratched the surface, but hopefully I give at least an overview on income tax too. Is merely the main topic I wanted to talk about. The sales tax in the US, Amazon's taking care of it now. Of course, on the European side, you've got all the different countries with VAT, and there's agencies and services that take care of the VAT piece. But income tax is the part that everybody hates, because after all your hard work, after you finally, figured out what products can sell and got your inventory set up, and you figured out how to sell it in Europe and the US, at the end of all that, then the government comes along and wants to take a big chunk of what you finally eked out as profit. So I'm going to share quickly about some of the things that we see our clients do to help avoid that problem, or at least cut it down as much as possible. So let me start here. Hopefully you guys can see the screen. Yes. Okay, so this is how to save money on taxes doing business, whether you're in the US or whether you're not from the US and you're maybe in Europe or somewhere else selling into the US. These are the strategies that we see. So first, just about us, we're a nationwide accounting service that specializes in e-com. We have currently over 125, and actually I think this is a little out of date. It's probably closer to 200 at this point, foreign sellers from 28 different countries. So a lot of experience working with folks that are outside the US, selling in the US, as well as folks in the US selling outside the US, and all the combinations. Over 1,000 US sellers from all the states here. So if you're in the US, I'm going to cover some strategies that are going to help you as well. And then just 8 years of e-com tax filing experience, which every single year, some of the tax laws change. So we always have to kind of figure out what's new, what's different. Is there any new strategies we have to employ? Are there any strategies we're currently using that don't work anymore? So it's a constantly changing landscape, but the goal is always the same, right? To help everybody keep as much of the money they've earned as possible and avoid as much in tax as you can legally get away with without, having to worry about spending the night in jail. So if you're a non-US e-com seller, so you're in Europe or anywhere, you're in the Middle East, you're in Dubai, you're in Australia, and you want to sell in the US, you have a couple of choices. You can actually, if there's an Amazon agreement, and they don't extend it to every country, but from a lot of countries, you can open up an Amazon US account and sell without setting up a US presence. This works if you've got 1 or 2 products and you're not probably doing a lot of volume. You want to just kind of test market demand. Again, like Fabricio was saying, if nobody's going to buy the product, then obviously it doesn't make any sense to go big. So just like not everything that sells well in the US will sell well in other markets, likewise, things that sell well in other markets may or may not sell well in the US. We have our own particular, things that we like and don't like, and things that we will and won't put up with or be interested in. So if you're set up, say, in the UK or you're in Germany and you want to test out the US market, you can do that without setting up a US presence. And the good news is, it's relatively easy to do, but it's limiting. If you want to get big, you want to be big in the US, you want to get into 7-figure, 8-figure sales. This is a tougher way to do it without being a US presence, without having that US presence. And being able to operate effectively in the US. So it's good for testing if Amazon, your country, allows you to sell into the US market without setting up here. But once you've figured out that you have something that's going to sell well, or a variety of products that'll sell well, or brands that'll sell well, you're probably really going to want to set up a US presence. The good news on doing it this way, though, is you're not going to end up having any income tax due in the US on those US sales normally. So again, there's a caveat to all this, which is normally and usually and typically, but it's always good to get direct advice on your specific situation. There may be something weird about what you're doing or where you're doing it from that would break the usual part of what I'm saying. So we always suggest, get specific advice. Don't get your tax advice off of TikTok or Instagram, right? Talk to a professional who does it for a living. But generally speaking, doing it this way, you're going to pay income tax in your home country and not in the US. Now, if you want to get set up in the US, there's really only one way to do it that works effectively, again, for most people, which is to open a single member LLC in the US. And single is underlined because a lot of times people come to us, well, I have partners, or there's 3 of us or something. Regardless of how many people are working on the project or how many people own the company in the outside the US country, you really only want to open a single member LLC in the US. And that's for very specific reasons. If there's 2 or more of you, then own that company together outside the US, and then have that outside the US company be the single owner of the US company. If there's more than one owner of a US company, it becomes a partnership, generally if it's an LLC, and that has different tax rules. And then you very well may end up owing tax in the US, which is what we're trying to avoid in this situation, is owing tax. So with a single member LLC, the IRS, the US tax agency, declares that a disregarded entity, which means that entity itself won't pay any tax, which is what we want. We don't want to pay any tax. So it has to be a single member LLC. If you screw that up, I recommend closing down and restarting as a single member, or taking one of those people off. As far as what state to open in, if you're not in the US, you can pick any of the 50 states. I highly recommend Wyoming. It has the best privacy laws. It has the lowest fees. There's no state income tax. It's, generally speaking, the best place to open. Some people talk about Delaware or Nevada, other states, but for the last several years, Wyoming has been the best place to open. So open there. Then you get an EIN, which is your government tax ID number, which you need to do business. You need to open a US bank account. Mercury Bank is one of the very few that I'm aware of that you can open a US bank account without being physically present. Most US banks, the ones you've heard of, Bank of America, Chase, Wells Fargo, etc., require that you be physically in person to open a bank account, which is obviously inconvenient. If you're outside the US, you'd have to travel here. Mercury Bank doesn't have that requirement, so nearly all of our foreign sellers open a Mercury Bank account for their single member LLC in the US. Once you have your EIN and your paperwork from Wyoming, you can open your bank account, and at that point you can open your Amazon Seller Central account or whatever other platforms you're going to start selling on, and you're off to the races. Now, the good news about this is you can take money out of this single member LLC one of 2 ways. If you're in a country with a tax treaty with the US, you have no problem. You can take the money out. That's not going to be taxed in the US because of the tax treaty. If you're not in a country with a tax treaty with the US, or you want to take it out without even worrying about declaring the tax treaty rules, you can simply have your foreign company invoice the US company for the cost of running that business, management fees essentially, or consulting fees, or a combination of those, and basically suck all the profits out of that US entity so that there is nothing left to pay taxes on regardless. Even if you were in a country where there was no tax treaty and nominally you potentially could owe tax in the US, you can take it all out. This is all perfectly legal. It's all perfectly acceptable. We've been doing it for our clients for years, never had a problem, because it's not a problem. It's perfectly allowed. You're going to pay taxes in your home country, but you're not going to pay any taxes in the US. If you happen to be in a country where the tax rate in your home country is even higher than in the US, and there are a few places like that, then you can do the reverse. You can pay the taxes in the US, leave the money in the US. Eventually, though, you're going to want to take it out. So that's one of those cases where I'd say, give us a call. We can talk through where you're at, what your situation is, what your plans are, and figure out what the best move is for you. But for most people, the tax rate in the US is higher than where they're at. And so moving the money to their home country is going to result in a lower income tax for them overall. And so generally speaking, by following this method, there will be no US tax due. Note though, even when there's no US tax due, or even if you open that company in Wyoming and then never did anything with it, you still have to file a US tax return. As soon as you open that business, every year you have to file a US tax return just to say, here's what we've been doing, or even if we've been doing nothing. If you fail to file that US tax return, the fine is $25,000 for each year that you're even a day late filing or you fail to file. And there's no negotiation on that. You can't appeal it. You can't ask for a lower amount. You can't say, hey, all I did was spend $100 to open that Wyoming LLC. I never did anything else. How can it be $25,000? It is. So don't get stuck in that situation. If you set up in the US, then remember that you've got to file a US tax return, even though you don't owe any tax in the US. If you do it right. If you fail to be a single member LLC, or you screw up the filing, or you do other things wrong, you may end up with a tax bill, but you don't have to. There's no reason for you to have a tax bill selling in the US from outside the US if you do it right. And then, like I mentioned, on sales tax, which is the other question people have, in the US, you're selling through Amazon, Amazon's taking care of sales tax. If you're selling on other platforms that don't collect sales tax for you, like Shopify, then you're obligated at minimum to collect sales tax in your home state. Now, if your home state is Wyoming, there's very few people that live in Wyoming, so you're going to have very few sales in Wyoming. You could have $1 million of annual revenue and end up with less than $25,000 of sales in Wyoming, which at their sales tax rate would mean $1,000 or so that you'd owe, 1,500, something like that. So a very nominal amount of sales tax you'd have to collect and pay, something we can help you with. But nominally, if you're selling through Amazon, you have no sales tax concerns. If you're not selling through Amazon, it's still a pretty trivial thing to take care of. It's not nearly as complicated and as much as VAT. And since it's added on after the price, not into the price, it's easy to figure out how much is owed, and you don't have to worry about, setting aside that money. It's already built into how the pricing works. Now, if you're a US seller selling, how do we worry about, or how do we think about income tax for US sellers? First of all, if you're in the US, you live in one of the 50 states. Unless you happen to live in Wyoming, you don't want to set up in Wyoming. You want to set up in the state where you live, because you're going to have to register there anyway. So setting up somewhere else, Wyoming, Delaware, or something, doesn't avoid any taxes, but it adds admin and overhead complication, because you're going to have to now file in both places. So set up in your home state, set up a pass-through entity, an LLC, or an S Corp or an LLC with an S election. And I'm throwing some jargon out here, and it's easier just to talk it through than try to do it on a 10-minute presentation. But basically, you don't want to be a sole prop. You want to have a legal entity between you and your business to give you some legal protection and some tax benefits. Then when you file your taxes, you want to use what's called cash basis tax filing. That means everything you buy in inventory, you get to write off when you buy it, not when you sell it. The advantage there is, as you're growing, you're continuously buying more inventory. That's where all your cash is going. So you want to be able to write that off. If you aren't writing it off, chances are you're going to have profits. And on those profits, on paper, you're going to pay taxes, which is money you could be using to buy more inventory and spend more on ads and grow your business. With cash basis tax filing, generally growing e-commerce businesses can show on paper a loss each year and avoid any income tax. So until you sell the business, each year that you're growing, you can avoid income tax, even as a US-based seller, even as a profitable on an accrual basis, meaning only counting the cost of products you've actually shipped, you can be profitable. But from a tax standpoint, by writing off all the inventory immediately when you buy it, you can avoid having any profits showing on your tax return, and then any income tax in the US. Now, once you finally sell the business, which is the exit that most owners take, then at that point you're going to have some capital gains tax owed, but you've deferred tax for years of growth before you owe anything. So that's kind of the US strategy. As you get bigger and even get to the point where you're profitable, even after writing off all your inventory, then still having that S Corp, there's some rules and things that we can put into play to help you avoid any income tax, even as you're growing and showing profits, or at least keep it as low as possible. So if you do it right, you can generally avoid taxes altogether as a foreign seller selling in the US, and you can almost avoid all taxes, at least until you sell, if you're a US seller selling in the US or selling in the US and abroad. Again, these all rely on doing it right, getting it set up correctly, and then making sure that you stay on top of it and maintain it. So the cost of having a professional do it is going to save you a ton of money, time, headaches, and concerns over being able to avoid those taxes. And not doing it right, or doing it with somebody who isn't experienced in this world, in the e-com accounting world and e-com tax world, you'll likely end up not nearly in as good of a situation. So hopefully that's helpful. I'm sure there are questions, because I blew through the whole thing really quick, and there's always the, yeah, but what about this, or what about that, or this weird thing happened. So, feel free to reach out. Our contact info, I'm sure Nick is going to share it. But a one-on-one consultation is the best way to know exactly. But the good news is, if I want to end on a good note here, the good news is that by and large, as an international seller selling in the US, you can avoid income tax, owing income tax in the US. Cool. And if you're a US-based seller selling in the US and abroad, you can by and large avoid income tax, at least in the beginning years, and at least until you get to be a really good sized business. And even then, we can mitigate most of that concern for you if you do it right. So hopefully that was helpful, and hopefully I didn't go too long.
Thanks, Matt. And as Matt said at the end, I mean, always do consultation. So all the services today, you cannot just plug and play. I mean, like inventory, you need to get to know it. Like Mike and Yaman, you cannot just say, okay, man, let's sign up and get started. Because I had a case with somebody like last year. He signed up, and next day he called our team and he said, "Hey Nick, where is my VAT? I signed up last time." So taxes, you need to know what to expect, because things takes longer for a reason, and that's why we're doing those webinars, just to be aware of the steps. And the one thing is, nobody's gonna charge you for consultation. We have a saying, I'm from Bulgaria, you can reach Rome by asking questions. So we're not like the wars, we don't charge you by the minute. So ask your questions, we're gonna give you an advice. Whether you listen to our advice or not, it's up to you, but we're gonna try to help you out. And now, after Matt told you about how we can actually expand in the States in regards from the tax side, Mike is going to talk about how we can do it on the marketing and growth side, because he has been doing that for a lot of years, even though he's a young guy. And he's going to introduce himself and tell you more about what you need to know if you want to go from Europe to America. So thanks, Mike. It's your turn.
Hey, thank you, Nick. And unfortunately, I'm not as young as I was once I started this, but anyway, yes, my name is Mike. I am the CEO of AMZ Advisors. Today, we're going to be talking about how to expand your brand to the US for European sellers. Not going to be talking about the tax aspects, though. What are we going to cover? We're going to talk about doing your market analysis, protecting your brand, and dealing with compliance for the US. We're also going to be talking about how to set up your content, how do you make your listings look good on Amazon. And then finally, we're going to talk a little bit about pricing and marketing your product within the US. Again, about me, I was originally a consultant for the Big Four. I hated that, and then that's how I got into e-commerce. I've been doing this for 8+ years at this point. Like I said, I'm the co-founder of AMZ Advisors. Also, I'm co-founder of another company called GoAvance. And at this point, we've helped over 300 brands expand into international markets. The markets primarily being in Europe, but we've also helped brands expand into Latin America, into Asia, and Australia. So we have a variety of different experience on dealing with different marketplaces. And again, AMZ Advisors is the company. We are an advanced Amazon ads advertising partner, meaning that we spend more than $20 million a year on Amazon ads themselves. So the first step when you're considering about expanding your brand, at least to the US or really any marketplace, is really understanding what the market looks like and doing some thorough research to make sure that you understand what the actual opportunity is. We've heard it mentioned a few times today about how your product, you might think your product might be the best selling product in the US. It's immediately going to be a hit in Europe or whatever other marketplace, and you get let down. And mainly that's because you don't have the right expectations ahead of time. So before spending any money investing in anything to expand to a new marketplace, I always recommend starting with in-depth market research and analysis. The first thing you want to look at is just generally what's happening in the market. What are the trends? What are consumer behavior? There's a lot of interesting different ways to do this. Some of it is through surveys. Some of it is through like Google Trends. You can actually get some very basic insights there. Also, just paying attention to what's happening on social media and what's being talked about on social media. I mean, TikTok is a great resource for actually seeing what's trending. It can really help you understand what people are looking to buy. And then obviously what platforms are customers buying from. E-commerce is pretty widespread in the US. There's a lot of different platforms that you can actually purchase products from, although Amazon is the biggest. A lot of people will buy household goods through Walmart over Amazon. So it's really understanding what platforms customers are searching on for your type of product. Next, you're going to start looking at the competition. How many competitors are there? Are there any gaps? Is my pricing competitive with them? Do I feel that I can actually cut out some market share within this market in the US? And obviously, that's incredibly competitive. The cost of advertising, the cost of marketing, those are all high. So if you see that your market is extremely competitive, it may be better to focus on other markets before investing into the US, because you're going to need a good ad budget. You're going to need to invest a good amount of money into your marketing to really get ahead. And Yeah, that's one of the things we want to consider when we're looking at what the competition is doing. And there's a variety of different tools out there for looking into this. We use Helium 10, Zonguru, and Jungle Scout, but Merchant Spring and there's a variety of other ones out there that you can use as well. The next thing you want to understand, and this is really what can either sink your brand or make it a success, is understanding the U.S. regulations and compliance. The first one is just understanding specific compliance requirements to your product. So certain products are obviously importable to the US, other products are not. Certain approvals from agencies like the FDA require certain ingredients or restrict certain ingredients or require certain quantities. Obviously, like making sure that your product complies with all of those before coming into the market is 100% necessary. I mean, we've seen people try to bring products in that are restricted before it gets caught at customs, and then they pretty much lose the inventory. They never get it back. So you really want to be specific with that. The other thing to consider is just tariffs. Tariffs is one thing that we don't think about a lot in the US, but there are a lot of tariffs from China if you're bringing your products from there. If you're coming from other international markets, like if you're bringing your products from Europe to the US directly, you can avoid some of that. But yeah, you need to consider that as well. Amazon's also becoming more and more rigorous with the compliance checks they're doing because Amazon is under more and more scrutiny from the US government. Some of the categories that have the most challenges are dietary supplements, ingestibles, topicals, children's products, and pet products. Pretty much anything you're either going to be putting in your body or on your skin or that your children are going to be playing with is extremely highly regulated. And those are markets where you really need to make sure that you are following all the regulations and compliance. One of the things we've been seeing lately, especially with dietary supplements, is Amazon's requests for lab testing and the requesting that it's done through the Amazon platform now. The cost is significantly higher than it used to be as well. We had clients that spent about $1,000 last year going through some labs, and now they have to pay about $2,200. So it's been a significant increase. And that's another thing you need to consider. If your product is heavily regulated, there may be additional costs associated with bringing it into the US and getting it selling on Amazon. The next thing you want to consider is just brand protection in the US. This isn't as big of a concern as it would be if you're going into other markets such as China. But generally, the best things to consider when you're looking at brand protection is having a trademark. That's obviously going to get you into brand registry. It's going to unlock some benefits there for protecting your brand on the platform. The process of getting a trademark is just pretty much going through the Amazon IP accelerator. That's the fastest way to get access to brand registry. It's faster than doing it on your own outside of Amazon and then submitting it to Amazon for brand registry. So if you want to get quick access, that's the way you should do it. Beyond a trademark, you could look at other IP protections like patents if you have something that's unique, copyrights for images, but mainly what you want to do is like have a trademark, just get into brand registry, make sure you get the access to the benefits and the tools that come through that, as well as brand analytics and a lot of the other features that are come on the advertising side. The next thing that we need to talk about is localizing your content. We've already touched on this a little bit, so I'm not going to go into it too much, but when you're coming from a different marketplace, you need to adjust the images, you need to adjust the text for what US consumers are searching for. A good way to do that is obviously looking at what competition is doing on the Amazon platform, but making sure that you're using photos of models, if you have lifestyle photos with models in your content that are American looking or have a scenery or a background that looks like America. Like obviously people want to see content that they relate to, and that has a very significant impact when it comes to click-through rates, when it comes to conversion rates. Tailoring your graphic imagery to that is extremely important. Then tailoring your copy to the way that US consumers actually search is the other important thing. We see this all the time where UK companies come over, they either make the mistake of using UK English instead of American English, and it gets completely lost in translation, or they don't get the results they want. With other foreign brands, when we see brands from China or Asia specifically, when they come over, the level of English isn't at the same level. The content and the copy doesn't come through the same way. So making sure that your content is really localized to what the US consumers are looking for is extremely important. And another good recommendation here is that if you're going to be selling on other platforms outside of Amazon, just really make your content cohesive with what you're doing on those other channels. When someone goes to your Shopify store and sees certain colors in the images and certain fonts, utilize that same branding guidelines on your Amazon content, because that's going to make everything feel much more connected for the consumer. When they're actually searching for the product, it's going to come off way more professional, and in general, it's going to help your brand convert more. We've also just briefly touched on this. Optimizing for SEO in the US, you need to make sure that you're using US specific keywords, obviously UK keywords or British English keywords or any other Australian English keywords. Those are not going to have the same context. They're not going to convert the same. They're not going to index the same. Make sure that you're using US English keywords when you're actually optimizing your content. The other thing you need to consider is that there's a big difference in how consumers search for products. So right now, Amazon obviously is the biggest marketplace for any product research that's happening in the US. I think about 70% of all searches online start on the Amazon platform for products. So knowing that, you really want to focus on optimizing your SEO content as much as possible to convert for the main keywords that you're trying to rank for. Additionally, there's going to be long tail keywords that are good opportunities for you to kind of jump on and start getting that market share. But understanding that almost all US consumers are going to Amazon, it's really important to be in those top spots. And that's one of the things that you're going to need to try to focus on from the start by having strong SEO and strong advertising strategy. And finally, now that you have your content created, I guess the last thing we want to do is actually exporting and adapting your catalog for the US. Make sure the listings are correctly set up within the US. Make sure that when you are exporting a listing through global selling on Amazon, that it's actually bringing the reviews over from the EU marketplace. It's incredibly important to have reviews on your product listing and that social proof, because it has a big impact on how customers convert. I mean, even Amazon says it within their advertising materials that your brand is not retail ready until you have at least 15 reviews. So if you have products in the EU that already have reviews, make sure that you're exporting those to the US correctly using the Amazon global selling capabilities. Finally, just making sure that you want to adjust for any conversion, any metric conversions, like if you're measuring in centimeters in Europe or in meters or whatever it may be, make sure it's converted to inches and feet in the US or yards, to make sure that it's converted from imperial or converted to imperial from the metric system. And then finally, we're going to talk about effective pricing strategies. So when we're doing our market analysis in the beginning, what we're looking at is where all the competitors are from a pricing standpoint. And that's going to give us a good idea of where we can price our product. Obviously, our costs are going to be different than what our competitors are, and we need to understand our costs. But launching in the US with an aggressive pricing strategy, potentially even trying to acquire customers at a loss, could be a great way to actually start firing the Amazon search algorithm to get your product showing up higher and generating more sales in the long term. Obviously, the challenge with that is if you try to jump your price up from there, you're going to get your low price errors and all those types of things that prevent you from selling the products. Like you might lose the buy box, for example. So after you launch at an aggressive price point, make sure that you're slowly increasing the price over time. That's going to help you capture the initial consumers, rank well on the Amazon platform, and then it's going to allow you to actually make your profit and your margin in the long term. Again, we talked about different pricing strategies a little bit there, how to penetrate, how to skim, and how to compete with them. You also want to make sure that you're adjusting your pricing for the time of the year. So right now, we just had Memorial Day in the US this past week. Understanding where the US holidays are is actually a great time, because almost every retailer or every Amazon or every e-commerce platform like Amazon is running promotions during that time period, which means that there's more consumers going to the platform. And we also look at how things have performed over the past Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and the previous Prime days last year. What we saw is that there was a higher preference for consumers to buy products that had a discount. Obviously, that makes sense, but it is significantly more than what we've seen in previous years. So right now, in general, the economic conditions in the US and worldwide are a little challenging. People are looking for deals. So if there are events coming up, sales periods coming up, it's a great opportunity for you to take advantage of those and make sure that you're offering discounts or promotions to encourage consumers to purchase your product during the Father's Day sale, which comes up in 15 days roughly. And then finally, paid advertising on Amazon. Obviously, this is much different than what you're going to be doing on the European side, but start with bottom of the funnel, start with sponsored products, just try to convert people that are searching for non-branded keywords. So, if you're selling a Yeti, or if you're selling a water bottle, don't advertise on Yeti water bottle or whatever. That's obviously not going to convert well. It's going to be a huge waste of money. You'd be better off focusing on the generic keyword water bottle at the bottom of the funnel. Once you kind of built out your bottom of the funnel is where I start recommending moving up, moving to sponsored brands, start creating more consideration by targeting competitor products, start creating a little bit more brand awareness by taking over the headline search ads. And then finally, moving further up, you're going to focus on brand awareness in sponsored displays. How do I target new audiences that don't know about my brand? And then finally, how do I retarget people that have either purchased my product or have viewed my product page but have not purchased? So that's how you want to start building out the advertising funnel. Once you've kind of maximized what's possible on the campaign manager, it's time to shift over to DSP. You're going to use the programmatic advertising to really fill the top of the funnel. So you're going to bring a lot of people in from third-party ad networks to your product pages, make them brand aware of what your product is. And then from there, we're going to try to retarget them over and over to try to get them to purchase the product. And then finally, audience targeting based on people that are in market or based on preferences that showing they can convert. Another thing where we're seeing a lot of success and where we've been helping a lot of brands with lately is affiliate marketing. We've been partnering with a lot of affiliates to drive outside traffic to Amazon through blogs, social media, and other channels. We offer commissions to affiliates. This is a good way to actually incentivize them to put out content about the brand that you're trying to promote. It may be a good way to start launching your product, especially if you're a well-known brand in Europe. In general, products from Europe have a connotation of being higher quality. We've kind of already heard that as well. So using that to your advantage could be a good way to partner with affiliates to actually promote the product and drive more sales on the Amazon platform. Off platform, again, social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Google Ads could also drive traffic from off platform. Working with influencers can drive sales. Virtual bundles are another great way to actually increase your average order value on Amazon. So if you have multiple SKUs, you may want to look at bundling them together and then using that to try to increase average order value. Again, special bundles for holidays and events. I've also mentioned that about taking advantage of the holiday periods that are in the US. And then finally, product cross-selling. And the way that we do this is really with upselling through either advertising our own products on our own product pages or other SKUs that we have on our own product pages, but also offering promotions. Buy this product, get a discount on this product, or buy these two products together and get a discount together. It's a good opportunity for you to take advantage of the audience that's already reaching your product listing pages, or your product detail pages, and it's a good way to try to sell them, increase average order value, turn more inventory, and at the end of the day, make more money. So that is a high-level overview of your blueprint on how you need to expand from Europe or pretty much anywhere to the US. If you're interested in discussing it more, scan the QR code and you can get book a time with us to talk further about it. And if you want to reach out to me directly, my email is mike@amcadvisors.com. And that is everything that I have, Nick.
Okay, thanks, Mike. And like I said earlier, we're going to share the contacts of all of our speakers so you can get in touch with them, you can get the presentation, and you can have a free consultation. Now we have 20 minutes for our questions. So let's start with the question because my son has an IQ to practice in 20 minutes. He's going to be the next Steven Seagal. So everybody from the 90s, they know what I'm talking about. So let's start with the question. So the first one is from Mas. In Wyoming, we're facing issues on the time of the brand registry for Amazon private label, like registration of trademark, etc. I think Mike mentioned about that. So I mean, I think you can get in touch with Mike, or if you want, Mike, you can connect your Mas with the partner who can help with that. Or is that something that you guys do, Matt, with the trademark?
We don't get into the trademark side. We stick to the tax and financial side.
Okay, sure. So I'm gonna send, my email is np@hellotax.com. So send me an email and I'm gonna connect with a partner who can help out. Okay, so we go to the next questions. So the next one The question is the following: do non-US business owners have to set up an US entity to sell in the USA? I think you answered that, Matt, but that's for you. Do non-US business owners have to set up a US entity to sell in the USA?
They don't have to if you go into your account and you can open an Amazon US account to sell in the Amazon US marketplace. If you can sell that, if you can do that directly, then you don't have to set up a US presence at all. A lot of countries still aren't enabled to sell directly in the US. In that case, you need to set up a US entity. So then you can set up a US Amazon Seller Central account. So it kind of depends on what country you're from. But if you're able to sell on Amazon without setting up a US entity, then you don't have to. But as I mentioned in the presentation, as you get bigger and expand, it becomes more and more challenging to not have a US presence.
Okay, thank you, Matt. The next question, that this one it's for me. Is there any advantage for US sellers to expand to Europe? Okay, so actually there is few of those. I'm gonna mention that quickly. For example, on the tax side, in Germany, for example, which is the market that we recommend to get started with, US companies have a specific tax authority. So even the UK companies wait longer to get the VAT issued. So you have a priority even compared to former UK countries like the UK. The other thing, English speakers know in Germany, they can apply it with their documents in English, which makes it easier. So those are things that some companies and sellers don't know about. So that's actually like an advantage for you guys if you're based in the USA. Chinese sellers tend to wait much longer because there is a huge demand there, and there is only a specific tax authority which deals with them. So there is actually a huge backlog. So I hope this answers your question. The next question, that's for you, Yaman. Yaman, what are the top 3 advantages you provide at Mega Merchant?
Okay, so I think number one is I summarized in the meeting, but number one is market launch, fast market launch. So normally it takes a lot of investment and time required, a lot of uncertainties, and you need to work with various partners to get things done for Europe expansion. We make it simpler. We do the heavy lifting, and we make it fast, we make it swift, and we make it cheap, actually. So I think that's the most important advantage. Secondly, again, we accelerate the whole process in not only the launch, but also the sales afterwards, so that thanks to our sales accounts already launched sales accounts, we are eligible to get into deals. We are eligible to get some support from the platforms. We have direct connections. Even in Amazon, we are in the strategic account services program, so that's why we can get some support from account managers on Amazon, but also we have direct contacts in other platforms. That makes things more reasonable from our side. So we basically work with the category managers in most of the platforms. We know what sells, we know what they want, so that we can select right products, right categories for the brands. I think that summarizes
Okay.
the advantages.
Thanks, Simon. The next question, that's for you, Fabricio. What is the best inventory scheme that you should recommend if I'm actually manufacturing in China and I sell in USA, Europe, and South America, Mexico, omni-channel, Amazon and local marketplaces?
Yeah, I think the last one that I showed, where you have the China 3PL holding the inventory, and then you have the local, if you're selling FBA on Amazon, you'll be an FBA. If you're selling multi-channel in different countries, you'd have a local 3PL, but that 3PL would not carry the bulk of inventory for that region. You'd carry only what you need for those channels that are fulfilled by that 3PL, and the bulk would be in China. That's what we're seeing more and more companies do. It's a very new scheme, and not a lot of people used to do that 2 years ago, but from 2 years to now, we're seeing more and more people going that route. So I would recommend that. And if that's not possible, once more, using the three rules, trying to centralize as much as possible, trying to make the decision as late as possible. So I think that's the scheme that I would suggest.
Okay, thanks, Fabricio. Another question on Nick. How much extra revenue can we expect to make in Europe, if we expand from the US? Okay, that's a great question. I'm gonna answer that, and Mike is gonna answer that as well, because they're helping a lot of brands to expand. So what we're seeing, in the last 1 year is that companies which we help to expand in Europe, they're doing from as little as 20% up to 50% of what they do in the States. And recently, I even spoke with a seller who is doing more in Europe than they're doing in the States. So let's say if you're doing like 1 million, you can go to Europe and you can do, in the worst case scenario, like 200K. And the best case scenario probably can do 500,000. And the one thing which probably don't know is with a higher profit margin. Because, a lot of your competitors suck in Europe. That's a fact. So I'm going to actually have Mike to answer that as well, because they've worked with a lot of companies as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to say in a percentage terms exactly what the increase is, because the brands we work with are doing pretty significant revenue numbers. But yeah, I do agree with a lot of what Nick's saying. I mean, there's plenty of brands where we worked with that are doing significantly more sales in Amazon than what they're doing in Amazon in Europe than what they're doing in Amazon in the US. So it is possible to get in, and I really think that's what it comes down to on the market analysis and market research. And I know Nick and myself or myself would be glad to help with doing any of those market analysis for you to see what the opportunity looks like in Europe.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Another question. This one is for you, Matt. I think you mentioned that, but I guess it's good to answer that as well. Again, what state is the best to register in if you're set up as a US business?
So if you're a US business, if you're a US citizen and you live in the US, the best state to set up in is your home state, because that's where you're going to have to register anyway, and that's where you're going to pay taxes. And so to keep life simple, set your business up in the state that you live and do business in. If you're outside the US, then the best state to pick is Wyoming.
Okay, yeah, I've seen a ton of companies in Wyoming, so that's why. Now one question. Actually, this is for, I think, for me, for Mike, for Yaman. What are the potential risks when you expand to Europe? Okay, Yaman, can you answer first?
Okay, so I think the one thing is like the brands need to finance the inventory, so they have to pay some. They have to store some inventory in Europe, and they have to pay for advertising. That might, that might be from the brand owner's perspective, the two important risks, I can say. The products might not fit right away, or the competition might be difficult, or the advertising might not return. So these are the normal terms of doing business. So these are the normal risks, I can say. So yeah, I think I generally suggest brands to start small and scale as they see more progress with there. So the good thing is like they don't need to do like a lot of stuff, so they can first start testing the waters and then adjust things accordingly.
Okay, thanks, Yaman.
Yeah, no, I was just going to add that product compliance is one of the other big things where we see brands struggle. EU compliance is a lot more challenging than US compliance, and you also have a variety of different local compliance in addition to the EU level. Really handling all of that and managing all of that is a big area where brands struggle when they're moving to Europe.
Okay, exactly. So these are the steps. Those are the two mandatory things for your VAT compliance. You cannot sell on Amazon or any marketplace without VAT. So you get the VAT. You wait 2-3 months for that. Product compliance, it takes probably for a week to like 2 weeks, but it's mandatory. If you don't have a responsible person for product compliance, you cannot import stuff in Europe. And then, of course, logistics. If you cannot move your stock to Europe, you cannot sell. As simple as that. So those are the 3 must-haves. And of course, we're helping all that. But before we start, we're gonna do analysis and we're gonna show if you should even bother, because for some products there is no market in Europe. You need to create a market, which is a little harder. It's not impossible, but it's something else that Mike mentioned. So we're done, guys. One question from everybody, because today is the end of May, summer starts, surfing beaches, bikini, whatever. So where are you going in the summer? Where are you going on vacation? Let's end the webinar like that. Let's start with Fabricio, because he was the first guest.
I'm going to Japan with my family, so it's going to be my first time.
Okay, great. Then, Yaman, where are we going?
I'm going to Spain.
Okay, Spain.
Turkey is expensive.
Yeah, Istanbul is very expensive. It's the most expensive place I've been in the last year.
Yeah.
Matt, where are you going? You?
I am also going to Japan with my family, so maybe I'll see you there, Fabricio.
I'll be there from the 4th through the 16th. So
July 11th through 1st through the 11th. So there'll be some overlap.
Yeah.
Okay, Mike, where are you going?
Probably just to some beaches in Mexico. I had tickets to the European Championship in June in Germany, but I have to have knee surgery, so unfortunately I'm gonna miss it.
Okay, man. Okay. And nobody's asking me where I'm going.
Where are you going, Nick?
Yeah, I'm going to Iceland next week just to cool off from all the webinars. So, yeah, and then we go to the beach for the summer, So, okay, guys. So it was really nice to have you here today. We covered very important topics. So those are the things that you guys need to know if you want to expand Europe: taxes, inventory, growth, compliance. There is nothing else that you need. But of course, I strongly recommend to get in touch with each of our guests today, and you can have a consultation, starting with Matt for the USA, me and Mike and Yaman for Europe. And of course, if you're selling or if you don't want to expand, you can talk with Fabricio all the time, because even if you're not expanding, you're moving inventory. So you need forecasting. You need to know what you're doing. So thank you again for joining our WASP webinar in this format. We're going to have a new one next month. So thank you for staying with us late in Europe, waking up not as early, of course, in the States on the West Coast, but still, it's lunchtime, I guess, almost lunch. So thanks again for joining. We're going to be sending the recording tomorrow for those of guys who missed that. And I'll see you again, guys. Thanks for joining. Bye-bye.